Hello, this is Sam Gerrans from truthinthenews.info. Today is Friday the 29th of April 2022, and hello to all those people who have come back for their next fix of propaganda and basically brain froth. I know you can't do without it. I can't do without it either. We're going to grind our way through the rules of this game. If you know the rules, then just fast forward through this bit. I get comments. I do check the comments sometimes. And, you get the person with no content who just created their account 5 minutes ago. No avatar, no name, nothing. Oh, I'd like you to change your entire presentation because of me. No. Use your finger, just fast forward. If you know this, great. It means that you've got the points, but some people haven't. And anyway, if you don't like it, start your own channel. See how easy that is. Anyway, let's quickly go through these. There are basically 8 sort of things I've got to sell you, as it were, in my food shop in propaganda. And all propaganda falls into these sorts of categories. I'm not just saying it's to do with Russia's special military operation in Ukraine or whatever it is. I mean, one of my brothers was asking me, he was saying, well, are you saying that everywhere propaganda is the same? Well, I kind of am, but what I'm saying is I don't say that all information is propaganda necessarily. What I am saying that anything that has these features is necessarily propaganda. That's the distinction I'm making. I mean, there have been some real journalists, even in the West, even in living memory. I mean, I don't agree with his politics, but John Pilger is a real journalist. I don't know how he's very old now, and I don't know how active he is. I mean, obviously he's got his view, but to say he's a propagandist just isn't true. He's a genuine investigative journalist, and there were a few of them. But really, what's happened over the last certainly 20 years in the West is that the any content that remained has just been eaten out from the inside by and all that remains is a kind of husk, a bit like what happened to the post office system in the UK. It's just really expensive, really rubbish, and doesn't work properly, but you still have to pay twice as much for it. That's all. Okay, that's what happens. It's a civilization in decline, and all I'm doing is looking at one very small part of this general decline. And when it becomes as boring for you as it is for me, you will have transcended Grasshopper. Okay, anyway, let's get to these. Number 1 is unrelated items.
Hello, how are you doing?
Yeah, this is, the person who just rings you up in the middle of the day, the scammer who's trying to sell you something that's not related to what's going on in your life. Propaganda, real propaganda does this. The next one is an opinion leader.
Just tell me exactly what to do and how to do it.
Yeah, so there'll be someone who's going to tell you exactly what to do and how to do it, or what to think and how to think it. And that would be usually an expert of some kind, an unnamed diplomat, somebody who just knows better than you. But pretty much nowadays, everyone knows better than you. So that's pretty much anyone. Number 3, missing context. What's happened to you? I don't know what's happened to me. Thank you. Pay attention, please, Maria. This is Maria Gonzalez. Maria Gonzalez has managed to crack her boyfriend Juan's telephone and discovered that Juan was less than honest. She's discovered what's been going on all the time. This is missing context, and propaganda relies a lot on your ignorance, okay? Which is fortunate for propaganda, because pretty much most people who consume it now are totally ignorant. Next one, obfuscation and simulation.
Add me as a friend.
This is Zoe. This is basically, they have to pretend to be journalists, at least to keep their end up. And this is Zoe. Zoe's going to pretend that she might be your girlfriend one day. She never will be. It's all a lie. And journalism kind of pretending something similar. You can't just say, look, you morons, we're just going to lie to you. They can't quite say that. I mean, I suppose they're nearly there, but they're not quite there yet. They have to go through a sort of a pretense of doing their due diligence, the sort of thing that John Pilger, did. Real journalism. Okay, gaslighting. This is assumed conclusions. This is the use of language, the way the language is used. It just assumes the conclusions that they want you to come to. But because as you are ignorant and stupid and basically not able to concentrate for more than about 6 seconds, that luckily for them, their job's pretty much done. Next one is shaming language and insults.
Oh, you're a very bad
Now, this just basically runs right the way through the whole Western culture, if you can call it culture now, if you can call a sort of degrading, degenerating mess culture. All you've got left is feelings, and so the corollary to that is outrage, and I kind of feature outrage and shaming language. Outrage and gush are the two kind of ends of the spectrum, but it's not really a spectrum. It's more of a sort of Boolean logic kind of node, because there's nothing between either of these extremes. It's just either or. So that's what you've got. Anyway, shaming language is a feature of that, and you get a lot of it in comments. You get it mainly, if I just get back to one of my favorite subjects, people who are brainwashed, or at least they are triggered by particular words, and they confuse this system of triggers as their personality. They don't really have a personality, because to have a personality you have to spend some time alone and actually reflecting upon things, not just consuming stuff that's been designed for you. And so they don't really have a personality, as you'll discover if you try to uncover one within them. What they have is reflexes, and that's what you're really dealing with. And what propaganda does, what it's designed to do, is to it's a bit like acupuncture. It sort of hits these meridians. We've got cats. I never wanted cats. I withstood cats for 2 years. Cat fur gets everywhere. Anyway, it's a bit like acupuncture. They very cleverly place these triggers into information, entertainment, education, all this stuff, which isn't really real. Like the post office, it doesn't really work anymore. It's not really what it says it is. It's something else. And people's opinions, or what they mistake as opinions, are formed on the basis of these trigger points. And the kind of the result, it's working when they start calling you names. That's how it works. Oh, I've lost count of where we were. Judy Garland, wasn't it? That was the one. Okay, next one, lies and propaganda. We know what this is. These are obvious. If you haven't, go on then, I'll play it again.
They took the babies out of the incubators. Took the incubators and left the children to die on the cold floor.
So this is, this was a lie to do with the Iraq invasion of Kuwait. There are all kinds of lies about in this case Russia now, that they are this, that and the other. They've done this, that and the other in places like Bucha or whatever. These are just lies, and you can corroborate this quite easily. And but because you're so stupid now, because you have no real education, as I've said I said yesterday, I think at under 30 you've got no education. I say under 45, maybe even 50, you have no education. You can't have. Why would you have any? I mean, multiple choice, and kind of discussing whether or not you feel that 2 + 2 is 4, or whether it's a racist, inclusive kind of number, and just discussing it on the basis of opinion. Of course you have no education. Of course you can't think straight. Why would you be able to? It's just delusional to think you could think. I mean, anyway, but your opinion's still really important, and every 4 or 5 years you get to, put whatever X has been implanted in your nervous system on a piece of paper, and you call that democracy, and everyone thinks that democracy is great. It's for me, I wander around, I feel like I'm surrounded by the living dead. Anyway, I don't know. Last one, propaganda payload.
Scuttle, look what we found!
Yeah, this is the thing they want to put into your nervous system. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it isn't. Anyway, I've got a short piece of tosh to have a look at today, because I can't stand any more of this. I really can't. It's so tedious, and hopefully it's become tedious to you as well. As I say, when it becomes tedious, you know that you have reached our next level. Okay, British man, here we are. British man, British. Well, he's British. He must be good. He must all be true. British man, Scott Silby, killed in Ukraine, and second UK national missing. Army veteran becomes first known British casualty of war. Just to put this in some perspective, he's not Ukrainian. He has no business to be in Ukraine. He went there because probably, I'm guessing here, but I think it's a reasonably educated guess that's Olympic level moron Liz Truss, Liz Truss, and somebody in the comments said mistrust or distrust. That was very good. She encouraged British men with not much else going for them to go off and avail themselves of an Instagram opportunity, killing Russians. Well, it didn't work out that way, did it? It wasn't how it was sold to you. No, this guy's dead now, and you know, his family will never see him again. That's just the reality. If it's true, who knows if any of this is true? I mean, that caveat goes without saying right the way through this. But what he actually was a mercenary. Okay, he was a soldier of fortune is a nice way of putting this, and the Russians were very clear about their attitude to these sorts of people. They said the best that you can hope for is to be tried as a common criminal and put into a Russian prison. I've never been anywhere near a Russian prison, but I know that it isn't somewhere that's on my list of places to go to. Okay, so here we are. Okay, a British man has been killed in Ukraine and a second British national is missing, the Foreign Office has said. Well, you know, this is opinion leaders, the Foreign Office, it must be true. It's kind of unrelated, the fact that there's a second one, but let's not worry about that too much. And let's just carry on with this. Tributes have been paid. Oh, tributes, yeah. Have you ever noticed, it's something that's always fascinated me, that people who get killed, especially maybe not in this scenario, because if you go to a war, you've got to expect that there is a sort of a likelihood, or at least a possibility of it happening. But every time someone's killed in some sort of freak event or murdered kind of unexpectedly, if you can use that word, they're always amazing people. They're always wonderful, aren't they? It's never like he was a real scumbag and he got exactly what was coming to him. That never happens. So if you want to make sure that you don't get like murdered in a freak event, just be a really bad person. Anyway, let's carry on with this piece of tosh. Tributes have been paid to Scott Sibley. Don't tell me. I haven't read this, by the way. I'm sure he was wonderful in every single regard, apart from the fact he wanted to murder Russians who had no business fighting. Has been named locally as the man who had died. He didn't die. He didn't contract some rare disease and sort of, you know, end up coughing his guts up because he had something unpronounceable. No, he was killed in action, I expect, or certainly killed as a result of Russian actions in a place he shouldn't have been in. That's the actual scenario. While the identity of the missing person remains unknown. Mr. Sibley is understood to be a veteran of the British Army. Oh, well, that's all right then. If he was killing people in British wars, and you know, we all know the British only fight wars that are just and good and true, then I'm sure he carried that sort of aura of wonderfulness over into killing Russians. But it didn't last very long, though, did it? He is the first British national known to have been killed in Ukraine since the Russian invasion. Well, obviously, you know, this is a load of missing context, but they know you're too stupid to care about any of that. It's quite a lot of other things as well, but let's just carry on. The Russian invasion, I don't know if I mentioned this, but we've got drilling in the house. I don't know if you can hear it. I think when we moved house, they came with us because they lived right next door to us where we lived before. But now they're here, and there's nothing you can do about it. So we'll just carry on. He was the first British national to have been killed in Ukraine since the Russian invasion. The Russians. Are you evil, Russians?
Yes, comrade.
I thought you might be. Of course, Russia can do nothing right. Russia's only legitimate position is on its knees begging for mercy as the West asset strips it, sticks all its resources into suitcases, and it starves the population to death. I mean, you know, anything other than that, it's just evil, isn't it? Russia has no legitimate right to defend itself or its borders or anything else. My suggestion to the Americans would be, why don't you go and secure your own borders? That's about your only legitimate occupation. And the British as well, actually, but no, they won't do that. They're too busy loving other people to death. Okay, let's carry on with this. It is thought he and the missing person were fighting against invading Russian forces. Sorry, wrong button, but it doesn't matter. You just press any button you like in this game. Obviously, more missing context here. Look up John Mearsheimer if you care about what that is. And also, I don't think Mir Sharma talks about this, but there were between 60 and 100,000 well-armed, well-trained Ukrainian soldiers massing in the Donbass, ready to attack the Donbass area of Russian speakers, whom they had been shelling and killing for the last 8 years, 14,000 of whom have been killed. But you don't care about any of those people. What you care about is Mr. Sibley. Mr. Sibley, it sounds like some sort of, like a BBC series. Mr. Sibley. Oh, yes. Anyway, enough of that. Let's carry on. A spokesperson. They have to say spokesperson now because they can't say man because man is sexist. But it is an appeal to authority. A spokesperson. I find it more interesting when you've got overlapping propaganda narratives. On the one hand, you've got the men and women are equal and the same and interchangeable, but actually they're not. Every time a woman says it's not true, then that's not true, and you have to maintain those two mutually exclusive things in your mind and be sure not to mix them up, otherwise you're an Easternite or an Obe. At the same time, you have to, not see it but see it. Now we've got a spokesperson, so I'm assuming this is a woman, but who cares about being male or female anymore in the West? Which is why you have problems between men and women, because you're not supposed to see the differences between them. But the only reason it's interesting is because there is a difference. Anyway, but I mean, who cares about that? You'll be dead soon. A spokesperson for the Foreign Office said, "We can confirm that a British national has been killed in Ukraine and are supporting their family." I'd like to know how they're doing that exactly. We are supporting their family. What, they're going to give them tons of money? I don't think so. British idea of support, by the way, just so you know, the British idea, the Western idea of support is feelings. It's, hold on, where are we? This is it. Gush. There we are. We'll send you some gush. It won't pay the bills. It won't do anything real. It's just some feelings. We feel some feelings for you. There you are. But they'll stop quite quickly, and when they do, that'll be the end of that. Let's carry on. The spokesperson also confirmed there was a British national missing and said it was, quote, urgently seeking other information. This is I don't know.
Come on, Shaggy. We've got to stop him.
Yeah, off they go. There's something very sort of, I don't know, urgently seeking it. It's some sort of super sleuth. I don't know if any of you have actually seen some of the older Basil Rathbone sort of Sherlock Holmes black and white films. I don't suppose anybody's seen black and white films here. I'm so old now. I'm probably the only person. That's why I'm in black and white. I like black and white. It just makes me feel more authentic somehow. But yeah, they're urgently seeking further information. How exactly would they be doing that? Like they're clicking the mouse, like with more, further. With more gush, who knows? Anyway, nobody cares about any of that. Let's carry on. The Foreign Office. There we are. Tell me exactly what to do and how to do it. Did not provide any details of what the pair had been doing in Ukraine or where they were. Well, I can give you a general idea. They'd gone there to kill Russians, but at least one of them got killed instead. Sounds pretty fair to me, but you won't be given that impression, I'm fairly sure. Nor did it say when the man was killed or the other went missing. Several people posted tributes to Mr. Sibley on Facebook. I thought they would do. It's always, I've noticed this, people get killed, they always turn out to be Mother Teresa. It never happens that they're just, people who torture cats for a hobby. They're always lovely and wonderful. What kind of world is it when only wonderful people get murdered? I don't know. Some bizarre kind of quirk in the fabric of the metaverse. But anyway, lots of people have gone onto Facebook to gush about this mercenary. Gush. Hope you're enjoying that. Gush, 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 gush. But it'll stop since something more interesting comes along. So several people posted tributes to Mr. Sibley on Facebook in recent years, with friends and former soldiers referring to the, quote, fallen hero. Oh, he's a fallen hero, is he? He went off to fight in a war that had nothing to do with him in a country he knew nothing about for money. I can think of quite a lot of ways of describing those sorts of people, but Fallen possibly comes into that category, I suppose, if you want to romanticize it, sort of Rupert Brooke. But hero isn't a word that I would use. And one hell of a beautiful guy. Well, perhaps hell features somewhat in his reality as of now, but anyway, we'll leave those sorts of more philosophical cogitations for another time. Mr. Sibley's former regiment. This is a former regiment. This isn't the regiment that he was a member of. This is a former regiment. The Logistics Support Squadron. I'm not a military expert, but Logistic Support Squadron doesn't sound much to me like somebody who knows an awful lot about fighting. It sounds to me, could be wrong. Please correct me in the comments if you are an ace killer from the Logistics Support Squadron, but it does sound to me like people whose primary occupation is sending boxes of food to places. I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't know. But they paid tribute to him, writing on Facebook, "This week, the SCN has lost a former serving soldier, a man that showed commando spirit until the end. R.I.P. Scott Sibley," it wrote. Well, there you are. That's his the epitaph to his life. Something on Facebook. Anyway, let's carry on. A GoFundMe page was set up on Wednesday to raise money for his funeral. By Thursday evening, the page had raised 3,000, so much and so much. You'd think really that if you were going to go and fight in a war in which sensibly you would quite likely get killed, that you should make those sort of provisions for yourself beforehand. I read somewhere about cowboys. I'm not saying all cowboys did this, but certainly this was apparently the tradition amongst cowboys. And the actual cowboy era in America wasn't very long, but in those sort of 20, 30, 40 years, whatever it was, when cowboys were like a thing, a cowboy would keep, I think it was $100 bill in his shoe, in his boot, in the heel of his boot, the purpose of which was to pay for his funeral in the event of his death. This seems to me like a responsible way of conducting business. But to go off gallivanting around when you haven't even got your funeral, I don't mean to be sort of irreverent, but you should really have thought it through. And I think a responsible soldier who knew anything about how wars really operate. I'm not a soldier, but I do know that death features quite prominently where people are shooting at each other. You should have had this bit covered before you went in there. Organizer Greg Gant said Mr. Sibley, quote, "was a friend like no other and the bravest person I've had the pleasure to have known. He was as good as a brother to me." See what I mean? Aren't they always wonderful? These people who get killed, they're never horrible. Why is this? It seems like some sort of obtuse, almost, I don't know, obscure rule of the universe. Anyway, there we are. Another fundraiser, they're springing up like mushrooms after rain, was set up by a woman who said Mr. Sibley had been part of an online community based around video game PUBG. This sounds closer to reality. All right. So he'd been playing video games. Video games are really there to indoctrinate you into an idea of reality that's nowhere based in truth. So I think getting closer to the reality, I would imagine at least that his impression of what was going to be facing him in Ukraine was more shaped by his experience of video games than it was by anything else. The fundraising campaign is for the benefit of Victoria Sibley, believed to be Mr. Sibley's wife. That sounds rather vague. She doesn't know. And has so far raised 250 of its £2,000 target. I'm laughing. I'm not laughing because somebody's been killed. I'm not laughing about that. But I don't have any sympathy. I'll be honest with you. I have a lot of sympathy for the Ukrainians being killed on an ongoing basis because of journalists, so-called journalists like this. I have a lot of sympathy for the Russian young men who are being killed because the Western media journalists like this are dragging this war out when really it should have been over, weeks ago. There's no question but that the Russians are winning this and have won it. There's no question about that. But they're prepared to throw, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of Ukrainian young men into the meat grinder of the Russian military machine. And that's why I'm critiquing this. Now, just because one, British man is stupid enough to go and throw himself into the same meat grinder, for me, I don't see it as a tragedy any more significant than all of the tens of thousands of Ukrainians being killed in the same way, or of the Russians being killed as part of the same operation. So this is propaganda, which is to give you some semblance, some sense that this is somehow more significant than all of the other people being killed in this ridiculous war that shouldn't be happening, which wouldn't have happened actually if the West had just listened to Russia's very reasonable demands. But no, Mr. Sibley and his erstwhile putative wife somehow should get your money because it's all so important. Time for more gush. Anyway, let's finish this up. The Foreign Office. Foreign Office is number 2, isn't it? Yeah, the Foreign Office. The Foreign Office has been advising British nationals against travelling to Ukraine since February, warning of a real risk to life. Well, it hasn't exactly been doing that because Liz Truss, the British government's genius in residence, pretty much told everyone to go there. And I don't know what the process was for Mr. Sibley, but certainly he ended up there. But now they're walking it back, aren't they? Walking it back. It sounds nice, like, took a little wander around the park and now decided to walk back. What it means is I'm going back on everything that I said before. I'm renouncing any kind of attachment to my words and positions of before. This isn't what grown-ups do, but this is what your leaders do. They walk it back. I've never heard this expression used by a Russian politician. I don't even know what it would be. Отказаться от своих слов. Like to renounce one's words. That's what I guess it would be in Russian. Because to explain it in Russian, you'd actually have to say what it actually means. That's what it actually means. Anyway, let's carry on. A number of British nationals have joined the fight in Ukraine. I'll just translate this into English. A number of basically money-hungry British mercenaries who can't do anything other than fight have gone off to Ukraine. And also they can't get out. Once you go in there, you can't leave. There are people at the Ukrainian-Polish border, as far as I know, they're even from the British SAS, whose job it is to spot young men trying to leave the country and chuck them back in there, so they can't leave. You have no idea what's going on. Anyway, authorities in Ukraine estimated in March. Authorities in Ukraine, I'll just translate if you don't know what authorities in Ukraine means. Ukraine is run by the CIA. This is a proxy war. The authorities in Ukraine are just basically a bunch of puppets. If we're talking about Zelensky and all the rest of it, it's just sort of window dressing. So there are no authorities in Ukraine. It's a puppet state fighting a proxy war for you lot. Okay, that's what it is. Estimated in March that at least 20,000 people from 52 different countries had come to support their army. Well, maybe some of that is true. Some of it probably isn't true. I don't know. The Ukrainian authorities' numbers are famously unreliable. Anyway, there's only a little bit left of this. Good. I've got so much else to do today. Around the same time, the Ministry of Defence said a small number of soldiers had gone AWOL despite orders not to travel to Ukraine. I don't quite understand what that means. Does it mean they've gone AWOL in Ukraine, or they've gone AWOL from leaving their regiments in the UK or somewhere else to go to Ukraine? But anyway, who cares? Advice from ministers was muddled at first. Yeah, I'll say. Liz Truss took time off from her participation at Mensa. Initially said she would, quote, absolutely support British nationals joining with Ukrainian forces. Okay, young men, we know we've been persecuting you for the last 20 years. You can't do anything right. And you suppose toxic masculinity and you can't sit how you like on the metro, but now you can go off and fight a war for somebody who you can't even communicate with. Liz Truss, meanwhile, she won't be going anywhere, of course. Anyway, but she rowed back from this statement. Oh, now they're rowing. They're not just walking, they're rowing. Soon they'll be flying. Soon they'll be sort of Olympic sprinting back from statements. But you can't be expected to keep up with this kind of stuff. It's probably something really good on television anyway. Less than a fortnight later, if you're American, you won't know what a fortnight is. Look it up on Google. You need this word in America. Fortnight. It's a great word. After Ben Wallace. I wonder if he's any relation of, what's it called? Braveheart. Never mind. The Defence Secretary said he did not, quote, want to see British people killed any more than I want to see Ukrainians dying. Well, that sounds like a bit of a subversive statement to me. I wonder if he's actually got a brain. I doubt it, though, if he's in the British government. Let's just finish up. Last week, 2 British fighters were paraded on Russian state TV after being captured in the southern Ukrainian city of Mariupol. Government, I don't know if they're paraded. I don't know what clip they're talking about, and it seems a little strange that they haven't got a link to it. Oh yes, so they can't because they're not allowed to. Obviously they can cite Russian media, but they can't actually show you it because that would be evil and bad. Would that be evil and bad?
Yes, comrade.
I thought so. But if what they're talking about is the interview with that young man, Aslin, whatever his name was, he himself requested a journalist, a Western journalist, a real journalist, somebody who's obviously not paid by mainstream media, somebody who's a crowdfunded journalist, to go and talk to him. So if that's what they're talking about, this is a misrepresentation of the facts. But I think that's kind of, we've come to expect that. But I can't swear to it that that's what they are relating to, but certainly he was interviewed by a Western young man, I can't remember his name, who's there. And if that's what they're talking about, well, then this is just a misrepresentation. But, that's just normal now. Government Minister Brandon Lewis. That's a good name. Brandon Lewis. Sounds like it should have, some sort of clothes line or something attached to it. Brandon Lewis said he had sympathy. Oh, sympathy. Hold on. Hey. There you are. Sympathy. He said he had sympathy. See how it works in the West? They have sympathy. Thank you very much. For the prisoners of war. But it was illegal for them to have been there. Ah, I see. It was illegal for them to have been there. There you are. There's a little a factoid that's actually based in something other than total delusion for you. Yes, they shouldn't have been there. It was illegal for them to be there. But no one mentioned that on Mr. Sibley's Facebook page. No, they were too busy gushing about what a wonderful person he was. And part of an online community based around video game PUBG. Well, that will go down in the annals of history, won't it? Anyway, that's it. I've had enough of this. I expect you have too. I hope you have, because if you have, it means that you're getting to the next level. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope everyone is well, and I'm gonna sort of cut this up, or not cut it up, but what do you have to do to it? Process it and upload it, and then get on with all the other things I've got to do today. That's it for now.